about to watch a panel discussion from Graduates Unleashed, Arts and Disabilities.
Welcome to today's IST Tuesdays. So this is, by the way, I can't hear properly out of this ear at the minute, so if I'm too quiet, just let me know. But yeah, so this is the first IST Tuesday of the year and ever for Graduates Unleashed. So this is exciting and making history, guys. So I'm Aisha and I'm a third year on the Applied Performance course. I did my placement with Open Theatre, which is how I got into knowing about the field of SEN work within the arts. So before we get into the actual fun stuff, just some quick things that we need to know. The bathrooms are if you go down this corridor and then turn and then go straight down, and then you'll see an elevator. If you just pass that, but then turn right, there are bathrooms there. The fire exits. If you want to shout for the next session, I don't know, up to you.
Or alternatively, we can nominate myself, Grace, or Lydia to take him, because Lydia had to take me.
Okay, so we have volunteers too, great. And then the fire exits are, there's an exit just there. If you come out and go around, there'll be an exit there. There's an exit down the stairs and that way. I hope that I'm making sense, and in case of a fire, I really hope I'm giving you the right information, but we should be good. Yes, to keep updated with Graduates Unleashed, to find out what we're doing and all that kind of stuff, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook with @GradUnleashed. We're hopefully going to do some really cool stuff this year, and as I said, this is the first Artist Tuesday of the year, so there will be more. So definitely stay updated with that. Onto the running order. Oh, also, this event, as you can tell, will be filmed. He is supposed to be here, don't worry. So yes, this will be filmed. So hopefully you guys are okay with that. If not, let one of us know. Onto the running order. So we're going to start off with a icebreaker from Richard Hayhow from Open Theatre, which I hope he's aware of. And then should we get started with that, or do we want to? Completely up to you.
Maybe go through the structure.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that. You look like you want to jump into it. Cool, we've got icebreaker from Richard Hayhow, then we'll go around and just say who we are, what we're doing here today, whether it's just that you're interested in the field or what you do professionally, the links to this, or outside of that, whatever you want really. And then we will be opening up a panel discussion where you guys can ask any questions to each other, the panel, the speakers.
What, to icebreaker? Yeah. I'm icebreaker.
No, so you're Hal Wood.
Give me a new nickname.
So you're Hal Wood.
That's actually your nickname, icebreaker.
Icebreaker.
No,
Sorry.
it's been Hayhow most of my life.
Time for a change, let's do it.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yes, so we will be going through doing that, and then after the panel discussion, we will be having spot drama and open theatre, doing some activities, some drama with us, which will be fun, and then after that there will be networking opportunities for us to kind of go around, mingle, find out more about each other, if there wasn't enough of that in the panel discussion. And then there are some evaluation stuff that you guys can fill out that will help us to better these events in the future. Is that all good with everybody so far?
Please also eat snacks. I don't want to take it home.
Oh, sorry, yes, there are plenty of snacks. I didn't see those. So help yourself to snacks.
Mine are jelly beans because they're trick or treat ones, and some of them are rotten egg flavour.
Don't help yourself to snacks.
Lovely. It's just a win, that's all. Yeah.
I really thought it would be immersive, and the whole way through you guys are going to be doing that. Yes, so I think we've covered everything. So should we get started with the icebreaker from Richard himself?
The icebreaker? Or the warm-up from icebreaker?
Yes.
Yeah, because I thought we were doing a warm-up, not an icebreaker.
Oh,
probably
perfect.
both.
Yes.
So normally we do the standing up, but I just thought it'd be fun to sit down and do a warm-up. So we're just going to do a little warm-up. All I want you to do is copy what I do, and copy what I do, and somebody else might need as well. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. going, keep going. What's going on?
The ice is not breaking.
Nice. No, the battery run out on this. Can you put that? Okay, let's just improvise.
Maybe you want to move slightly that way so you don't.
Yes, so I
like,
don't
break
hit
your
you. Okay, she's going to find the back, I think. Okay, just do this while we wait. Back, head, shoulder, tummy, knee, foot, head, shoulder, tummy, knee, foot, head, shoulder, tummy, Not yet. Okay. Turn to your partner. Turn to the person next to you. And
Hello.
so we're going to do the same thing. But give your partner permission to do this. Clap. Head. Clap. Shoulder. Tummy. Knee. Shoulder. Tummy. Knee. It's because someone borrowed it. Why?
If you want us doing the names and stuff like that now,
Yes.
before that happens?
Yes.
Okay, so if we just go around and say our name and just a little bit about what we do, whether that's if we're working professionally in the field or if we're training or studying or anything like that, or outside of that, what you do. I'll kick this off. I'm Aisha. I'm a third year applied performance student at the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. In terms of what I want to go into, I'm really interested in directing and creating political theatre, the SEM sector, and poetry and spoken word and that kind of thing, and writing that. And then I also really want to go into politics and humanitarian work, and maybe work with the UN in some form, shape or way. So that's what I want to do. Which way around do we want to go? Is anybody particularly?
Hi, shall we dive in now? My name's Chris Halpin. I'm a musician, music maker. I'm a disabled person. My work sort of happens at the intersection between music, technology and disability. I'm known for performing with a very strange, groundbreaking instrument called Emu gloves. It's a gestural interface. It's proper Iron Man, Tony Stark stuff.
Is that with the lasers?
No, it's gestural AI stuff. So I have songs where I play. It looks like I'm playing in a band, but they're invisible instruments, right? So I've got my violin, I've got my guitar, my drums.
I really thought that was you for a second.
These are my new Mimi gloves. They're the invisible ones. Apparently the instrument's invisible, but now the gloves aren't. Yeah, so I tour internationally doing that, and it's quite good. It's not rubbish. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm Rachel Walton. I manage the APPCHATS, which is a charity based in Birmingham, which seeks to find adaptive musical instruments and equipment for people who've got physical disabilities, particularly those affecting upper limbs, because virtually every instrument you can think of requires 10 very dexterous fingers, so if you haven't got what you can't use, you're stuck. So that's what we do.
Hi, I'm Grace. I am a founder and producer at Graduates Unleashed. I'm also a graduate from the Applied Performance course, which is based here. I work with Open Theatre Company as a creative enabler, do various other bits and bobs. And yeah, that's me.
I'm Sanjay. I've just finished doing a master's at Cardiff about design, and kind of my master's, I chose to do my master's about making instruments for disabled people and focusing specifically on the aesthetic and making it a more gritty, strange, sort of daring experience, rather than a kind of, because the aesthetics of like instruments for disabled people are known to be sort of purely functional. I was trying to sort of break that.
We need to talk.
Okay.
That sounds
Hi, I'm Owen. Probably won't be able to sing because I've got a cold. And I'm just interested in the arts and drama. I go to British Group on the first day.
Hi, I'm Rosie. I'm an actress and I recently finished an MA in Shakespeare and Creativity, and I work with Lydia, Spot Drama, both leading and assisting workshops.
I'm Ellen. I'm a first year learning disability nurse here, and I also work with Lydia.
I'm Faye and I'm part of the Graduates on IST team. I've been part of it for a while. Yeah, and I'm also on the Applied Performance course in my 3rd year, and I'm really interested in producing.
My name's Hayley. I'm also on the AP course, also 3rd year. I'm really interested in TIE work, but I'm working with Richard for one of our modules on our course. So I'll be working with Open Theatre, and I just like to learn more about SE and that. So
I'm John. I'm a freelance photographer, basically. Short and sweet.
You're quite tall. You're sweet, but.
I'm Matt. I'm a professional actor, and I'm also Lydia's assistant at Spot Drama. I've also led a couple of sessions as well.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm the founder of Spot Drama, and I also, which is a group that work with all ages and abilities, but I also am on to work with Open Theatre as well. So I've done quite a bit.
I'm Luke. Terrible introductions. I do all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
He does all sorts
Actor.
Yeah. Singer.
Don't you run your own group as well? Like, as inspector, your thing?
No, I don't run that.
Oh.
Yeah, my name is Jay Jarvis, and I'm a drama practitioner currently working at schools, and I also do other projects with Richard of the Theatre Company, also the rep as well. Wow, and I'm pretty much into doing film making and acting, and yeah, pretty much my own hat like he is. I'll just take off now.
I'm Richard and I run Open Theatre Company. We've been going for about 25 years, and we work with young people with learning disabilities in all sorts of ways.
I'm Maddie. I run Alternative Voices Theatre Company. I work in partnership with Open Theatre Company, and it's for actors with diagnosis. You don't have to have a diagnosis to join us, but most of our company do have diagnosis. And I'm a training occupational therapy student because I want to change the system for people like us, basically. So that's where I'm at the moment.
Last but not least, hi, I'm Hannah Prentice. I'm here to talk about my project Tick. So I have Tourette's myself, so I may make some of you jump or come out with things like saying nuggets, like chicken nuggets, like that. But I'm just here to talk on the panel about what I do with Tick as educating Tourette's learners.
Awesome.
Yes,
yeah.
what about you?
I'm part of Graduates Unleashed. I didn't go through the university route, I went through the apprenticeship route. So I try and stay out of trouble as much as I can, and then help out when I can.
You've also got Sam.
Oh, I was doing some theatre around you when I was going around. So I'm a part of Graduates Unleashed, and I'm an applied theatre student as well, and I'm interested in early years and youth theatre.
Awesome. Do we know if we've got the sound working? Yep. Cool. Should we try icebreaker part 2?
Yes, icebreaker part 2. But maybe just to put this in a little bit of context, what I didn't say about open theatre is that we have a non-verbal physical theatre practice. So we work, we create non-verbal physical theatre, but we also work non-verbally in schools, and we use our way of working as a way of communicating and contacting and connecting with young people and enabling them to find out what they want to do with their lives. So the reason for doing this warm-up this way, because otherwise we're just going to go in and nobody knows why, is that in order to communicate physically, you have to know how to use your body. You've got to be able to communicate effectively with your body. So this is just a fun way of exploring what your body can do. Okay, cue the music. So this is a bit like Deja-vu. And we never plan much about what we're going to do. So every time we do a warm-up, it ends up being quite different.
Okay, awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Do you want to speak a little bit about what that kind of activity normally does? Like in terms of like at the start of a session, what the aim is?
Okay. So it is an icebreaker, yes. It's a way of kind of having fun, enjoying just being in each other's company, but also it's a way of connecting with people, because I was looking at everybody as we were doing it. I wasn't just doing it, I was trying to see how people were doing stuff. You did something and I suddenly went, oh, that's interesting, why don't I do that? So it's a very collaborative, shared way of working. So it's not about me telling you what to do, it's about me doing something and seeing what happens and how to connect with you and how to draw from what you're doing, the way you're doing stuff. So, and it's also kind of about what we fundamentally believe in, is that the best things happen between us, not just on our own. So it's just, and that's a big grand thing to say, just from an icebreaker and warm-up, but actually it's fundamental to the way we go about stuff.
Cool. Thank you. That's perfect. Cool. So we're just going to introduce the speakers now, and then we'll open the floor up to questions. So, perfect. So we've got Richard Hayhow of Open Theatre. We've got Magdalene Levy of Alternative Voices. We've got Rachel Wilson of the OHMI Trust. We've got Hannah Prentice from TIC, and we've got Chris Halpin from all around the world. So we're going to open up the floor straight away. So do you guys have any immediate questions for the speakers? That's okay, we were prepared for this. Shall we go around and shall we all just, well, should you guys just say a little bit about who you are and what it is that you actually do in terms of your work? I'm going to just ask you to go again, I'm so sorry. Do you want to kick things off, Richard?
I've kind of said a little bit. We do non-verbal physical theatre. We work in a whole range of special schools across Birmingham and Coventry. We're based, we work with organisations, so we don't have an office, which is a really important principle for us, that we don't go off in a corner somewhere and do our stuff, that we actually work with organisations like the Hippodrome, the REP, MAC in Coventry with the Belgrade with Imagineer, and also with what was BSA, but Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. So we're talking now about how to work more closely with the applied theatre course so that we can train people better through that process. So we fundamentally believe that, again, that we can't do anything on our own, we have to work with other people. And that's important for us in the work we do, but it's also important for the young people we work with, that they are positioned right in the middle of stuff that's going on in the cities. And they're not somewhere in a back alley, sort of in a side street. They're actually with us in places like the Hippodrome and the Belgrade and the REP and so on, and they're part of the way that culture in the city, in the two cities, develop. So we've just become an NPO, which is the National Portfolio Organisation of the Arts Council, which means we have 4 years core funding to develop our work, which means also for us as an organisation it's gone from me to me and a whole team of people working together, and we have trained practitioners now who go into schools as well as me, so we've got a team of 4 full-time practitioners plus a few others. It also means that we're supporting people like Jake and Luke in their careers and where they want to, and Matt and Maddie and anyone else in the room. Owen's just starting out on that journey, so we work. We've kind of got a thing called the Talent Lab, which is an interesting title about how we support people to become the artists of the future. We fundamentally believe that everyone has the right to be part of everything if they want to be. But sometimes it's better to develop people's skills and abilities as a group together and then invite people into that process rather than get people to join other things. So that's our way of doing inclusion, is to say, basically, you might be having a great party over there, we're having a great party here, do you want to come and join our party? Mm-hmm. That's our sort of basic philosophy. And from that place we then kind of move out and do stuff in the world. We're working closely in Coventry with City of Culture because we want to make a big impact through that as well. And we support people like, what are you? What do you do? Jake and Luke are creating a piece of theatre called Duke and Lake, which is exploring whether two people who actually are very similar can be different. Which is why we've called it Duke and Lake, which is a play on their names, Jake and Luke. So we're developing in that. So we do big projects as well. Sorry, we did a big production of Hanson and Gretel recently, which was performed at the Hippodrome and at the Belgrade, and on the little mini tour. And we're now applying to the Arts Council for loads of money to do 3 more Twisted Tales and take them around the country. We have 5 performers with learning disabilities paid professionally in that production. They were family audiences as well. They weren't. A lot of this work gets kind of sidelined into, because
your company is about learning disability, then you perform to people with learning disabilities. We're out to say that's great, but we want to position our work right in the middle of stuff. So family audiences at the Hippodrome Theatre is an amazing thing to do. So that's, I'll stop now.
Awesome. Shall we go to the next speaker, Maddie?
Oh gosh, how to follow that? So I guess a lot of my philosophies tie in with Richard's, which is how I ended up meeting Richard, I suppose. So we began as a sort of small theatre company in 2014 in Birmingham, and I was trying to put the productions on entirely by myself with no production team, and I was supporting my cast to perform in places like the MAC. So that was very stressful, and it's now good that I have a production team, which is really nice. First time in 8 years I've ever had a production team. And so basically, like, the belief that I have is that there's not that much opportunity once you leave a university environment for adults to be involved in theatre, not just adults, but adults with diagnosis particularly. We often get left at the wayside a bit because you either do amateur dramatics or you do Shakespeare or you don't, basically, or you do musicals. And whilst those things are great, and I love Shakespeare, I don't have anything against that at all, I think that there should be more scope for people who want to explore different areas of theatre to be able to do that. And that's what Alternative Voices is about, really. It started because I was inspired by some spoken word stuff that I saw at a variety show evening in the pub in Moseley. And then I was like, well, I've written a lot of spoken word type stuff, so how do I move forward with what I've done? And it was almost like it was some sort of calling, and it was a ride that I haven't been able to get off yet. So I've been, the last project that we did was at the Hippodrome, and I worked with Matt and Jake and Luke, and Grace was creative enabler and Lydia, and we put on a show based on our experiences. We had 3 themes, which were identity, justice and belonging, and the cast put together a show based on their experiences surrounding those themes using forum theatre. So if you don't know what forum theatre is, then it's basically a medium that's used to discuss issues with the public, so anything to do with raising awareness. If you want to raise awareness of a certain issue, then I'd say that forum theatre is a really good way of doing that, because it forces the audience members to think about the issues that you're presenting to them, not in a confrontational way, but in a way that empowers them to make a change and to make a difference in society. So we just finished that, and we're currently rounding up all the evaluation stuff for that, and then we're going to look at applying for more funding to see how we can go forward next year. Alongside that, I'm training to be an occupational therapist because I believe that there's a lot in the healthcare system that needs changing, about particularly in the way that people with autism are supported in terms of assessments, and particularly in terms of assessments, and how money is claimed and support benefit and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that by having a massive loud voice, I might actually be able to get in with some professionals and change some policies in that way, so that once I qualify in 2020, hopefully I'll start doing more work in that area. I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah, that's cool, thank you. On to the next one.
I'm an apprentice, ticking zone. This is my first time speaking on a panel, which I'm quite pleased and proud of myself actually. Thanks Grace for inviting me. Ticking zone nuggets. So TIC stands for the abbreviation for Tourette's is complex project, obviously, because it's a complex condition that can link to other conditions like OCD, autism, and it can also link not part of it, but linked to mental health. Issues, and I have that myself. So, I have started the project because I want. Obviously, I live with the condition. I don't like to say the word suffer. People have different labels and how they say things. Growing up, I prefer to say I lived into it. I mean, at times it feels like I do suffer. And I have my bad days. But also, I live with a lived experience. So, sorry, chickens. That's very chickens. I poke people as well, just as ticks. So sorry, chicken nuggets. So there's 3 parts to the project. There's workshops. So I deliver them. Tick workshops of places of education, creativity and work. Sorry, give the nuggets. Then tick zines. I've got some tick zines with me on that table, so if anyone wants to have a look, it's without it's the pilot zine. So and I've got badges, so badges to show them. So donation of tick zine donation to Tourette's Action Form hand and badges are £2, so let me know if you're interested. Sorry. So tick zine is related content to Tourette's, interviews and insights and artwork from workshops. Then there's tick travel vlogs and blogs, like tick and plan words, I don't know. Tick travel vlog and blog. So I've travelled twice with my friend Helen, who is second in command for Tick. Nuggets, sorry. And we travelled to Paris, Disneyland, obviously the surrounding area, and Toulouse in Spain, Barcelona. So it's documenting and showing how accessible places of travelling abroad are for people with Tourette's or invisible or visible disabilities.
We'll have a chat about that.
Yeah. Sorry. Just keep cautious. Big page. Sorry, I'm Thomas that can have a laugh with the Tourette's, not take the piss out of it. Maybe someone does to myself, but not to anyone else. So I've learned with my family as well. If I make someone joke, it's funny. It's just like a surprise moment. So I'm sorry to chickens ahoy my nuggets. So I'm just saying. At the minute, I'm planning to do filming for a Tick documentary. To me, the word tick. It's very versatile. I found that in my ticking, like you've got your logo, Tic Tac No, and
didn't even, yeah.
Yeah,
Tic Tac Toe.
No, Tic Tac No. So Christian's
No.
it's Tic Tac No.
Yeah, check.
See, because when I say, if anyone, I don't know, anyone can come up with a word that it could be a main word like tickverse. Diversity, tickversity, I don't know. Yeah, tickversity. Do you know what I mean? It's a versatile word, and when someone says ticklish, I'm just like, yeah. Ticklish. Oh yeah, sorry, but it's a good way of just playing on the word. TikTok, am I talking so long?
No.
Just double checking, I'm a bit cautious as well because I'm nervous and nuggets, chickens on my nuggets, thank you. So Tick documentary, that's going to be filmed by Rebels Without a Pause. So that's the people called Adam and Paul. They run their own filming company that does so passionate and very important issues that happen in the world. So to chickens ahoy and sorry, they're going to be filming it, and the aim is to get it done by end of Christmas this year, and then I want to send it out to film festivals and have screenings in Birmingham, so keep a look out on social medias. And you've got 3 main elements of Tick, but Tickings or no, I also want to create open safe spaces for people with Tourette's, and that's not just main audience is Tourette's obviously, but that's not excluding people with any other conditions, Tourette's or you've got other conditions. People are welcome, bring friends and family. So I'm just looking for space in the city centre that is good for because I've heard of this autism friendly, you know, where they have markets open, so you can early life 9:30 to 18 years. So yeah, I don't know, that's me, yeah. So yeah, cool. Thank you.
And on to our next speaker.
Hey, my name's Chris Halpin. I've got really cool trainers, haven't I? Distracting you because I don't have really hard and abstract to explain what I do without them, the magic gloves. So barely anybody being here, frankly, without them. So I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm based in Birmingham-ish, from Birmingham. So my journey with my sort of career was going alright as a singer-songwriter, going out and playing gigs in that sort of really tired format of a bloke with an acoustic guitar. I have cerebral palsy, which affects my walking, but also my hands. My right hand is impaired, increasingly significantly as I got older, and my guitar playing took a real kind of dive, and my piano playing struggled, and going out and playing gigs was hard enough in terms of accent barriers for me. The music industry is a big, horrible, yucky pile of ableism anyway. Like, it's really, like, you know, speak to people about theatre and different things, and I'm like, wow, the music industry is really rubbish at this. So I was having enough challenges anyway, dealing with gigs and stuff. I remember doing a festival just on the outskirts of Birmingham, where the bands were, climbing up the scaffolding to get onto the stage. That's not a great look for me, to be honest. That's just the norm. Unfortunately, it was really hard to access gigs, and then my impairment got a lot worse. And I figured I was kind of done. Actually, I was ready to sort of throw in the towel. I remember playing a gig in Coventry, and my hands were just kind of seizing up, and I was like, "This is probably it." And I reached out to a charity called Drake Music, based in London, who do amazing work working with making music accessible to disabled people. And they introduced me to different technologies, which I won't mention the brand names of for reasons that will be obvious in a second. So I played around with these technologies that were targeted at disabled people, and I went, wow, these are really rubbish, aren't they? Blimey, this is so depressing. There was, for some context, like when I was a teenager, I wanted to be Steve Vai. I wasn't like just having 3 chords and the truth kind of person. I was shooting for virtuosity. So the idea of like waving your hand in front of a light and playing 2 notes of a major scale was not exactly filling me with excitement. Drake Music were at this time talking to the team around Grammy Award-winning superstar called Imogen Heap, who was working on this technology called the Mimi Plus. She had this big hang-up that she was. You're going to stop me from talking too long, of course. She had this big hang-up that she is a singer-songwriter, and she makes electronic music, and then that's her framework for her songwriting. So that relies heavily on computers, and you would go and see her in concert, and she was singing, and she'd have her laptop on stage, and as she put it, you're watching a woman singing with a laptop, and it's not that interesting. Her famous thing was, she said, for all you know, halfway through a gig, I could be checking my emails. You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know why that laptop's there. And she wanted a visually engaging and expressive way to play electronic music, because electronic music, we know what it looks like for someone to be a guitar hero and playing the piano or playing even orchestral instruments, but electronic music on stage, you're like, oh, what are they doing? Pressing a button or something? So she had devised this idea for these gloves. Drake Music had the idea that, quite by accident, they'd invented this really amazing bit of accessible technology. This idea of an artificial intelligence, a wearable instrument that would learn the user's movements. And what we saw immediately was that it wouldn't matter if those movements were impaired, because the technology would work with what you give it, right? So they were about to launch the gloves. They made, I say launch the sort of prototype phase of the gloves. They made 15 pairs of gloves. Mostly they went to rich and Heat fans who just wanted to go and hang out at their house. One pair went to Ariana Grande, who did some amazing work on her tour with them, and then one pair went to Drake Music, and in a very casual way they said, do you want to have a go at this thing? Look, we've got these gloves off Imogen Heap. And I went, yeah, all right. I got invited to a party at a house. I'm a massive fan of their music anyway. I thought, this will be fun. I might get a cool blog post out of it. Took the gloves home. Thought, what have I done this for? This is really complicated, ridiculous technology, but got over those hurdles, learned to play them, got invited to do a tour with a charity called Attitudes is Everything, who were working to make, so they were doing a lot of work to make gigs more accessible to disabled people. What they wanted to do was have a campaign that focused on artists, because access as artists, as I was experiencing, like access to venues as an audience member might be really good, but like I said about climbing the scaffolding, once you get backstage, like forget it, no one's considered that a disabled person might need to be there, because why would a disabled person want a better gig? So I did a UK tour with those guys as part of Independent Venue Week, which is just like 3 nights, playing with the gloves, doing my show. I thought I'd sort of go back to what I was doing before, which was not a lot. And the buzz around that week got really, really silly. Like it was, I did a thing on BBC One, I did some stuff on Radio 1 with Hugh Stevens. There's a few, the papers that aren't rubbish, the ones that don't, hate disabled people. The Independent Guardian.
Not the Daily Mail.
No, definitely not. I think they definitely hate me, but that's okay. I'm right with that. And it just exploded from there. People got really excited about the narrative. Like I said, disabled people are just not represented in the rock and pop industry at all. So to go out and do this kind of, you mentioned about work not just happening over here, but being in the thick of it, going out and doing the indie venue circuit, it was a big deal for people. A lot of people wanted to tell me their kind of disability stories and what connected them to the show, what they saw in it. Perhaps I remember the great moment, a security guard coming up to me saying, I've been filming this on my phone, but my nephew's got cerebral palsy and I just can't wait to show him what we're doing. It had a really big impact because it was a setting where we're not invited, really. There's a lot of challenges with that. The access to the venues was quite hard. I remember, the first night, the sort of standing area was like there's a ramp down there and clearly signposted accessible toilets, and then you have to sort of climb out of a hatch about this high to get onto the stage, and it's like, okay, we still haven't got this far with that stuff. And then the phone kept ringing, and then I was off to festivals in Germany, and then I was in Sweden and somewhere else. And this 1-week tour turned into an 18-month world tour, and then I finally got sick of playing the same songs, and I killed it off last summer, headlining the Kennedy Centre in Washington DC in front of a sea of people. I can't even imagine how many people, but it was just make up a big number, times it by a few, and then I just thought, this is silly now. This is stupid. So it's one of those things, and now I'm just ramping up, starting a new tour, starting a new show, working on that at the moment, and that's going to start soon in the new year, and it's going to start here, because tragically I've played loads of gigs in London, loads of gigs all over the UK. Like I say, I've done more shows in the US than I have in Birmingham. I've not even played in my hometown once yet, so I'm going to fix that as a matter of urgency.
Today.
Yeah, exactly. The gloves aren't here, so I can't do that right now. But yeah, so there'll be a new show soon. And as well as that, doing more work as a practitioner, presenting this stuff in school settings and at conferences and things, because people seem quite interested in the intersection of this stuff, of this cool technology, the disability problem that we're trying to fix. And the music's alright. He says, so that's me.
Awesome. And last but certainly not
what we do, as I said, focuses around finding solutions to instruments. Unlike Chris's work, what we've tried to do is find ways of accessing sort of conventional instruments. I don't quite know what to call them, but things that you will all recognise. I don't know how many of you are musicians here. You sound more like you're from the acting side of things, but name an instrument you learn in school. You won't be able to play it probably beyond the first couple of notes, and those are the kind of instruments we're working to make accessible. So just to give you a couple of examples, the charity was founded in 2011, based in Birmingham originally, because the founder was Stephen Huntington, and his daughter has got cerebral palsy. She arrived at school, bright, capable girl, but left hemiplegic, so weak left side, and said really wanted to play something. Dad was a professional trumpet player back in the day, and was politely told, no, sorry, there's nothing you can play. Now, bearing in mind that this girl's now 25, has got an MA, has gone back to university to do journalism just now, she's more than capable of learning a musical instrument, but the instrument wasn't there for her. And then another example of somebody we've worked with is a man called David Nabb in America. So David was a saxophone teacher at Nebraska Kearney University, and suddenly in his mid-30s has a stroke and can't play, and that's the end of career. You know, social life, everything has just gone down the pan. So he worked with Maker locally to develop a saxophone he could play with one hand, which he has got and he's now playing. And those two examples of somebody who's been born with a condition and somebody who acquires a condition later in life are the kind of two main groups we work with. We find most of our instruments do a competition, so David's saxophone actually won the first round of our competition in 2013. We had our 6th round of our competition this year, and the winner was actually announced in this very building at the beginning of September at our first conference. And the competition really draws on 3 categories, so playable instruments, so things like saxophones, flutes, recorders, and the criteria for the competition is that the instrument needs to be able to do everything that a standard instrument can do, but without the use of one hand or arm. Now, people aren't necessarily that clear-cut, but it gives the judges a measurable, you know, can it do it or not? And then a second category is enabling apparatus, so this might be stands or harnesses or things like that that make standard instruments playable. So this year we had a trombone stand, which was a kind of formed shell, carbon fibre shell, which took the weight of the trombone. And we also had stands for trombone, not trombone, euphonium. And then we have a concept category, so new things. So the Me and You gloves actually came through our competition in 2014, 2015 as a tuba. So, you know, things like that that perhaps require a little bit more development. And then what we've done since 2015 is work with music hubs, first of all in Birmingham and then latterly in Surrey and Hampshire and various other ones coming on board, to offer instruments through the music hubs so that when they meet kids in schools, they've got something they can offer them. One of the biggest things that winds me up, so 90% of children with physical disability are in mainstream schools. And then you have year 4, I don't know how long, it's been going quite a while, I think, I don't know how old you all are, but the kind of year 4 scenario where everybody in the class learns the clarinet for the year or the violin for the year or whatever it is, and you've got the one child or more than one child in a class who can't play, and then what do you do? And we've heard some horror stories of, well, we'll do your physio in that time, or we'll do, you know, you can go into the registers, or why?
Because
so,
the
again,
education system is wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a big battle that is going to take many years to fight.
It is. But also the music system is wrong because, you know, if you think of the Paralympics, we've had 70 years of Paralympic competition. Where are we with music? I heard somebody from a BBC orchestra a year ago say that 4% of performers in BBC orchestras identify as disabled, and that is just grossly under society's representation. And the frustrating thing with that was, you know, well, by 2020 we're targeting 8%, but if the equipment's not there, then where are these 4% extra going to come from, and what about the other however many 16% in society? So we're a really long way to go before we have inclusion in its truest sense. I think the other thing is that all of us tonight are working with very specific groups, and I think that's actually really important because one size will never fit all. And actually watching the non-verbal starter, well, I was wearing twice skirt, I couldn't do it. Poor Chris can't move his legs, he can do it. You know, so it is really important that there is this broad spectrum of approach for to allow inclusion for a broad spectrum of people.
Awesome, thank you. How are we doing time for
Cool, perfect. So in terms of job roles and like what specifically you do in terms of your career at the moment, can we go around and hear a little bit more about specifically like a day in the life of your work, like what that would entail? Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Should we start with Richard again? I feel like we need another speaker to start with you.
I see Richard's diary and there is no such thing as a day.
No, definitely not. It's a really hard question.
Yeah, I think that's really important that in a few days, well, actually I'm going to do 3 days of training, which will be fairly similar this week, but yeah, it's really difficult because I go from actually working with a group of young people in the school to going to a City of Culture meeting where I'm meeting the Stephen Ellis, who's the Minister for the Arts, and you kind of go, what's the connection between these two things? And that happens in the same day. So I think one of the key things about this kind of work is adaptability, flexibility, and I suppose being yourself in every context. That one of the most important things I've learned from this work is to be myself. And to not get intimidated by people like in positions of power and just go, I'm going to be the same as I am with a group of young people in this context as well. And that's a really big challenge for me. And otherwise, and actually, I couldn't get through a day unless I was like that, because it was like being in Coventry in a meeting all day, talking about how to change the education system,
yes.
How to place doing at the centre of the curriculum instead of talking and all the other stuff that education's about.
You mentioned person-centred.
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely, at the heart of everything. So you're in this meeting where I'm talking about all that sort of stuff and listening to other people, and then I have to get in a car and drive here and think, how do I now switch from that sort of thing to doing a presentation to people I don't know, and what am I trying to say? But the really important thing is, if you know who you are in that sense, you know what you're about, you know what you're trying to achieve, then it becomes a lot easier, and you don't have to think, I've got to pretend to be like somebody in this context. So a lot of my days are about kind of going from one thing to another, but trying to be consistent in that. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
I mean, my day's quite a lot like Richard's at the moment. I think I should probably give a bit more context about what occupational therapy is. So what the idea behind it is to put human activity at the centre of focus. So whether it's your drama or whether it's your music or an activity that is really meaningful to you, it's how do we then go and make it so that you can do that activity if you have a physical condition or if you have a mental health condition. And a lot of people look at occupational therapy and they hear the word occupation and they think it means work. So they think that what I do is I go and I examine people's workplaces to see how suitable they are to work there, and that's part of it. But it's not all of it. It's a massive spectrum, a bit like my condition, really, which is really nice because it means I can work with all sorts of varieties of people in all sorts of varieties of ways. I mean, I'm not qualified yet. I'm a student, but like today, I was talking to people who were like the head of the course of the university, and I was talking to them about how to change the course structure to benefit the current students that are at the university. And like Richard said, if I thought, oh my God, I'm talking to the course director, you know, I could be a bit intimidated equally. Like when I first met Richard, that, you know, there's a tendency to think, oh, Richard's this theatre person with years and years and years of experience. If I thought, how am I ever going to approach Richard? If I'd have thought, you know, how am I ever going to approach Richard, then I wouldn't have got the support that I need to get the work that I want to do going. And I think the biggest thing is to always remember what your fight is, like what your focus is. Like always remember why you're doing the work in the first place, because on some days when I'm running from meeting to meeting to meeting, or when I've got students messaging me at 11:30 at night when I'm trying to go to sleep, I sometimes think like, why on earth am I doing this? Like, what is it for? And the reason is because I want a better system, I want a better world for people on the spectrum, for people with any condition. That's why I'm trying to educate myself about all conditions, so that I can help people in whatever way that I can, or whatever way that they need it. So I guess just always remember why you're doing what you're doing. But yeah, no 2 days are the same for me either. So.
So for me, I don't really have a routine. Not that I go with the flow, but if I look at an ordinary week, the only type of day I have a routine is where I host a space. It's called Impact Hub Birmingham. So it's like you host for 5.5 hours, and my role is called a wizard, being a wizard, a wizard. So you host the space, take bookings, show lots of stuff, you make sure you're at the front desk and what, and to the buzzer, which is quite funny. It's just like, I love the place there, like I can tick freely, but that's my usual shift on a Thursday. Throughout the week I could have no other days the same, do you know what I mean? I could have like a self-care day, like mental health day if I'm having a bad week, I try my best to have like days to myself, or just doing little as possible, catching up with adulting, life stuff, like housework, sorting out paperwork, wasn't throwing everything in. Then I would have meetings because there's not just me on tick, there's the 3 trustees, there's Helen, Malik and Didi, so I thought I'd get other trustees, so we've got a meeting coming up in November. But no day is the same, days are the same, but in terms of what activities and doing stuff, it can be different. I could be, I say I have no routine, but I kind of do, but it's not like when you're at college or work, it's like 9 to 5, it's not like that. But I'm trying to get into a routine, because I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that's
cool, thank you. Chris?
So there's a few different sort of phases to my activity, and my focus tends to be, like at the moment I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes because I'm getting ready for the show. So when I'm like, the run when I was doing Gloves Are On, that was the big tour, that lifestyle is very different to what I'm doing right now when you're travelling a lot and doing all sounds really spoiled when you start moaning about airports and hotels and stuff, but like that, it's quite a challenge, especially when there's, there are kind of access barriers. I mean, I travel everywhere, I've hobbled, that's about as far as I'm going to hobble from my wheelchair, so touring is like quite complex. There's that stuff, and then there's the going out and playing shows and doing all that stuff can be so exciting and rewarding in terms of meeting people and just the connection you have in that performance space. A lot of my work behind the scenes is really, really profoundly dull. Like making the stuff happen, making the programming and getting the stuff to work. It's quite hard. And then I have another kind of angle to what I do between either going out and playing the shows or getting ready to play shows. Also, obviously I'm a recording artist and I'm in the studio doing that stuff as much as I can. And then I kind of, more and more, I've had a lot of rewarding experiences talking about the work that I'm doing, working with organisations and go to conferences and sort of presenting things, either doing workshops and stuff. I did a workshop with the OBI guys only last week, wasn't it? Meeting young people. And that space is really, really exciting. That's probably some of the most rewarding stuff, is like connecting with people who go, okay, this actually kind of matters, because I can only imagine what it would have meant to me, as a young person trying to make sense of wanting to be a musician and being disabled. You said about the school stuff. I mean, I had a few piano lessons at school, and it was like, because of my sort of hemiplegic hand, it was like, you're not going to be able to do this. And it's just like, okay, great. Putting myself in that scenario where you meet people is really super important. I think like you said about just like if you have that sort of focus point, like I know what I'm here to do. I know what some of what I do. You'd be forgiven for thinking it's quite glamorous. Occasionally, I play these big places and I meet some very famous people, and people seem to know who I am and actually give a shit about what I do. And I might be in a school in Coventry doing, working with 5 people or something, but there's a strong sense of the mission and what I'm there to do. And I think if you have that sense of self and why you're doing it, which I didn't have at all before actually started this project, because I was really super anxious about performing and speaking. I didn't even identify as disabled really. Maybe 5 or maybe a little over 5 years ago. I was like, I've got this issue, but no, I'm not. I'm not that. Like I was trying to. I didn't know how I fitted into that. So the idea of talking about disability so much professionally and performing and doing all this stuff, I realise now that most of my anxiety was because of anxiety with performing was because my impairment, my access barriers are holding me back. So even weirdly enough, flying halfway across the world to do a live broadcast with technology that sometimes just doesn't work, and all this crazy stuff going on, I was like, actually this is less stressful because it's actually meeting for all the madness. It's actually meeting the kind of challenges that I face with my impairment. So I'd like to say it's like these guys and say, it's no 2 days are the same, but sometimes they're really the same, and there's lots of airports and staring at computer screens. But then there's exciting bits in between.
Perfect, thank you, Rachel.
Okay, variation on a theme. So last Thursday, I delivered an arts award workshop with Chris, was our visiting musician, with 10 visually impaired people at Queen Alexandra College in Birmingham. Today I have spent writing a very mundane report to the Arts Council as they go to finish my conference in September. And tomorrow I'm driving to Reading to meet the young lady who's hemiplegic and wants to play the cello, then going to Surrey to talk to one of the music hub leads, and then to somewhere else in Surrey to deliver a clarinet for a teacher who's worked with us who wants an adapted clarinet for a whole class clarinet session she's doing this year, and then to swap a trombone over, and then I'm come home. So there you go, 3 days in the life of Rachel.
Thank you. Do we have time for more questions, or do we need to do something?
Yes,
Yes, I was going to ask. Do you guys have any questions now that you know a bit more about the work that everyone does?
Do you have any videos of what you do?
Oh, yeah, loads.
On YouTube or anything?
YouTube, I should probably make the effort to plug there's a film called The Gloves Are On, which was commissioned by Actors and Everything, funded by the PRS Foundation. I'm legally bound to tell you that. And it's good, and you should watch it. It's on Vimeo, and it explains the whole story about how I got here. There's loads of stuff. Asking, yes, please, give me more chance to plug stuff.
What kind of music do you play?
So it's somewhere between rock. My roots are kind of like metal and rock stuff. But then obviously there's the gloves are an electronic instrument by default, so making sense of that sort of space between rock and electronic stuff. You could say, and I'm a bit of a soft spot for 80s. Yeah, synthy, metal-y stuff. There you go. That works.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Don't worry, I got more. So, in terms of you spoke a lot about the industries that you're in and the challenges that it presented when you started out. How much, if at all, do you think that the sector that you're in, or the sectors that you're in, have changed since starting out, if they have at all? And how would you like to see them progress? Very big question, I know.
I just want to throw a point into that, which I've been talking about a lot. I have a sort of slightly self-depreciating view on my sort of success, but there is a serious point about the fact that I've been doing quite well. When I first started out, I mentioned about trying to fly through a hat to play a gig or whatever. You know, I performed at the EU headquarters thing, right? And like, you know, I'm not travelling around the world worrying about my access barriers. Like, there's going to be a chauffeur, he's going to sort it out. There's going to be the promoter's going to, whatever I need, somebody's going to be on that phone. I could just like, don't have to worry about it anymore. 18 months of touring, yeah, stuff gets done. That starting out was really, really super hard because it's just to get wheel through the door, for want of a better expression. It's really, really super hard. So for me, I look at my access barriers and now I look at what's happening in the sort of tour bubble and I go, well, this is all right. Yeah, it's great for me. I don't really face access challenges so much on the road, but that's because I'm doing all right and they get sorted out. The sector, I worry, isn't really changing at all, and that's why working with people like Attitude is so important. Attitude is everything is so important, to keep banging the drum. Yeah, it's all right for me, but like, how does the next disabled person who wants to break into sort of rock and pop kind of deal with those kind of challenges?
I think the things are improving, but they're improving very, 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 very slowly. So for people with autism, you've got relaxed performances now, you've got relaxed cinema screenings, things that even, so I was born in 1990, oh dear Lord, so a while ago, and like you didn't have those, you just didn't have, those things did not exist 10 years ago, they didn't, so the fact that they exist means that things are very definitely moving forward, and the idea for the sector would be that we don't have to announce that we're on the spectrum or that we have a disability. The idea would be we are just actors, we do what we do, or we are musicians. We wouldn't have to say I am a disabled whatever. And it's worked for gay people because Ian McKellen, he's not, he's Sir Ian McKellen, nobody goes, he's a gay actor. Like, you've got gay actors out there. So if it's worked for them, it's taken them a good long time, but I think it can work for us, but whether we see that in my lifetime, I don't know. I hope we do.
That conversation is still really, really young. Like, for everything I'm doing, I'm still a disabled musician doing that, right?
Yeah, because if you didn't put that disabled title in front of it, you wouldn't get that.
The context is still kind of about that. It's not, and I don't know if that's going to, it's probably too late for me. I'm probably too old to kind of shut that thing, but one would hope that for another generation of people that maybe this kind of moves on.
I hope for the next generation that they will be able to say, I am an actor, I am a musician. That's the dream. I don't want them to have to say, I am a disabled actor in order to get funding to do what they want to do.
One example I will give as a positive that shows we maybe are making progress. Has anyone heard of Felix Kleeser? No? Okay, Felix Kleeser is I'm going to say young, but he's probably older than you. I wasn't even.
Wait, are you saying I'm not young?
A young German French horn player, and he has no arms. And for those of you who are old like me and listen to Classic FM, he's regularly played on Classic FM, and that was the blah 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 horn concerto by Felix Kleeser. What people I've never heard it mentioned on Classic FM that he plays with his feet.
Wow. Good.
Yes. And he was here in September, so where were you lot? But yeah, so he is not the disabled French horn player. I fully accept he's one of very few, but maybe there's just this glimmer of hope that actually it's his art that he's celebrated for, and the fact that he plays with his feet, most people seem to be oblivious to.
Mainly advertising for the fact that we weren't there.
I think for me, what we're saying, it's like, you've got things are separate. So, like, you've got your disability or medical condition, and you've got, like, your passion, which are very different between them both. You know what I mean? Your medical condition or disability is not. It's a part of who you are, but it's not your identity. For some people, it's different. They might, you can put that first, I don't know. It depends on individual preference. But for me to see, I wouldn't mind if people I don't like. I'm probably not as clued up with this, but I wouldn't mind saying I am an artist with Tourette syndrome, because to me, chickens always look it's like to say that I've got Tourette's gives me support, also makes everyone aware, so and it generally from a it does make most everyone feel uncomfortable. So for me, it works a bit differently. So I get what you mean, like people want to be known for the work, not the disability. I get that completely. But for me, I think labels are important to some extent.
The context is still really useful.
Yeah.
Being
like it's the support you get.
Saving you.
Yeah. It's encouraging, inspiring, and like you get the support you need. But it's not always the forefront. So if I come up to every one of you and I don't know, you would skate across the building and said, "Hi, I'm Hannah," or "I have Tourette's, I'm Hannah." You know, it's how you word it. You know, so I will say, "I'm Hannah, I have Tourette's syndrome." You know, I've learned to switch it from Hannah to Tourette, from Tourette's to Hannah to Tourette's. You know, because it's the first thing you might notice about me that might be a bit strange moving, or like you don't know I have Tourette's. But it's key that I feel I have to make people aware, which is what I want to do. So yeah.
Awesome. Do you guys have any like projects that you have recently worked on or are currently working on that you'd like to talk about? I know that Maddie, you had recently worked on Blank Canvas.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned a bit about that earlier. We're currently in the process we will be in the process of applying for more funding to hopefully get some projects going in 2019. I can't tell you too much more about them because I don't know in which order we're going to work on them yet. So it would be a bit of false advertising if I sort of went up and down it. But yeah, like Blank Canvas was quite special because the Hippodrome was the first building that I ever acted in when I was about 13 years old, and they let us have the space that I did the summer workshop in as well. So it was very nice it felt like coming home really. It was quite nice to be back on that stage as a professional with my own company doing my own project. So I guess I'm just promoting the fact that if you have an idea, then you can do it. The only thing stopping you is you really. You can talk yourself out of it, you can do all of that self-talk to say, oh, maybe people won't listen to me, maybe these big scary directors in the city council aren't going to listen, but they will if you're motivated enough to go out and grab that. So that's more of a motivational speech than about any project.
You can also say that your first professional production for your company was at the Hippodrome, which is, that's really cool.
I forget that's quite a big thing a lot of the time.
What was the creating and devising process of that project like?
It was exciting. It was exciting, but challenging at the same time because I chose to work in a. I chose to use forum theatre to inform the way the workshops were run, and because of that, what we did was we played games with each other in order to create the dramatic material. But what that meant was that if you had cast members who were away for whatever reason, which there was a cast member away for pretty much every week throughout the thing, right up, and apart from the production week.
With the exception of me.
With the exception of me. You and Luke got gifts. Thank you, gifts. But to work in that way, you have to really not get stressed about things or not get hung up on specific ideas. You can't sort of say, I want my show to look like that, because it just didn't have a set direction. We edited bits of it actually the day before we were due to go on stage. Actually, maybe it was on the day.
Yeah, the lift scene was on the day.
Yeah. And because of my condition, that's not actually my natural way of being. Like, I like routines, I like structure, I like very, very planned ways of thinking. So that was a way of challenging myself and my beliefs about acting, to see if we could actually do something different, and miraculously and wonderfully we managed to do it. So yeah, exciting and challenging, I'd say.
And Hannah, you mentioned that there is a TIC documentary.
So so we've got some dates. It's to film in November. So I wanna reach out. Oh, she's sorry. Friends that who have Tourette's and other conditions. But obviously, I can't say what the documentary is about because I don't want to spoil the surprise. But I'd like to have it shown at film screening nights in Birmingham. So I'd say keep an eye out. Obviously, it hasn't been filmed yet, but the process is to get it all done by the new year. And just the open safe space place. I'm looking for places that are in the city centre. And just quite good at finding free rooms for places in Birmingham. But I'd like to approach the manager or the organiser saying, look, I'm looking to. I have Tourette's, Hannah. I want to have a space where I could have a small group of people to come and feel comfortable to tick free zone. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, just doing that. So yeah, thank you.
No, that's really good. So in terms of the highlights of your job, which is a very all of these are such broad questions, but I'm so sorry. Another one. Oh, okay, actually, let me change the question. This is the last one. How can we get involved more with the work that you guys are doing? Is there any way that people that want to get involved can find a way in at the moment? Obviously, there's a couple of people in the room that are graduating soon, looking at possible options. There are some people that are interested in the field. How would you advise people? What advice would you give to getting into this sector?
Into the sector or working with us? Because
I know. Both.
Yeah.
Let's say working with you guys specifically. What would you?
If anyone wanted to work with me, all you have to do is message myself, Richard, or Grace, because particularly production team wise, I'm always, because we're developing a new project in the new year, it'd be nice to have different talent and a different team of people. So if it is something that you're interested in, or you just want to learn about how to work with people with specific conditions that we work with, because I know some people in the room wanted to learn more about SEN type things, then if you wanted to watch a session or to work with us, then you just have to message us, really. In terms of the sector, absolute perseverance and never be afraid to send that message to the big person of the big company, because the way I got involved in it was my partner said to me, oh, you're getting depressed because you haven't done theatre for 8 years, you need to get back involved in it. And I was like, oh, I don't know how. And there was a job advertisement for Melissa's job, and they were going into schools in the education section running arts workshops, and I thought, that's something I could do. I've got, a drama and theatre degree, I could go into a school and work with people. So I applied for it, and Melissa said, well, the funding's been taken away, so there isn't that anymore, but if you come to this meeting, you might meet some people who can support you. And I said, oh, when's the meeting? And she said, well, it's tomorrow, actually. And I was like, right, okay. And I came along, and then I met Richard and Gus as part of the Creative Minds meeting, which I then ended up hosting. So you never know where that one little link can go to. So don't be afraid to send that email. It's how you get into the sector, basically.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have any other tales of wisdom?
I sort of echo that point, really. I've done some proper bucket list stuff. I did a glove demo. This won't mean anything because you're not guitar geeks like me, but I did a private backstage glove demo for my Guitar hero, Steve Lyle. just because I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go backstage. I'm just going to like give the spiel, and it's going to be great, and he's going to love it. And sure enough, it all worked out. And just having that trust to go, however wild those big ideas are, just to go, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to send that email. I'm going to phone that person. I'm going to, do that show, meet that person, blah blah blah. Just go for it.
Like go for your ambitions. If you don't ask, you don't get. Simple.
Well, I was super anxious about that sort of stuff. I was, I remember the night of like going to get the gloves and being like going on my way to Imogen Heap's house, and I was thinking, like me a year ago, I'd have like made an excuse and said I was too ill or something. I couldn't have done it. I'd be like, I can't go to some, party where it's going to be journalists and celebrities, blah blah blah. But you can.
Yeah.
Actually, you can say yes.
Is that right? I just want to say two things. One is, if you want to get in and come and work with us in any way, just get in touch, have a conversation. As you can tell, there are many people now connected with Urban Theatre, and they all started with conversations and just initial contact. So please, if you're interested. The other thing I think that kind of connects with being yourself as well is that we kind of think often we're taught there are certain ways of going about things in life, and that fits certain people. I think the most important thing is to find out how you do things in the context of what you want to do, and don't think you have to play by other people's rules with that. You can discover new things in your way and celebrate that, and talk from that, be that person, be strong in that. Don't kind of go, and I'm saying that because, again, like 20, 30 years ago when I was working in community arts, I always thought what I did was crap. And then I've started to realise, no, actually it's not crap, it's just different to what they do. And so you celebrate what is different about the way you go about stuff.
Awesome, thank you.
I wonder if you're trying to answer so quickly. I think it's key to collaborate with others. So, like, if you feel like both parties, of another organisation would benefit from TIC, and they would benefit, and they would benefit from TIC, and I would benefit from them. That's a win-win situation. But sometimes you don't always get that with networking, as in collaborating. But I think it's key to collaborate with anyone that's creative or non-creative, because they could bring a new skill or idea to your project or your organisation. And also, I think taking a risk in what you believe in, like not going like crazy, like I'll buy £1,000 of sweets for myself. Do you know what I mean? I've got funding to give them spend £1,000. Not like that. Thinking practical, but also having a good supportive network, having family and friends to talk to, just talk the idea through. So you don't have a team. Reach to your friends and family, and like, I'm thinking of doing this. They could give you some practical advice. But also, I'd say in this industry of like to do with artists or people that are working with people in arts and disability, because I think it's key for also to have downtime to ourselves, even if we set that in the routine. So for some people, they might have to meditate, they might have to have a nap for like a power nap for like an hour, half an hour. So if they have a place where they work, they need a break, and they have to say, look, stop, I need a break, I'm a meltdown or overwhelmed. Implement that in your work, because that is so important for you to be mentally healthy as well.
I just want to second that I failed miserably at that, and I made myself really ill for the first sort of 6 months of touring and stuff, because I just didn't think, I should also look after myself in that sort of space. Learn the hard way. It's great advice.
I think that it's lovely, Hannah, that you mentioned self-care, because we went off on this massive spiel about our work, but we didn't say that without your body, without yourself, how can the work get done? You are the vehicle to drive the change, you are the vehicle to make that work happen. So if you're not looking after yourself, and I say this with experience because I'm now currently off work with depression, but if you don't look after yourself, then you have to you have to build yourself back up again to be able to fight the battle. So self-care is massively important.
Yeah, I think it's what touching on what Richard said, you know, don't follow people's rules. So have like set boundaries, but have your own rules, not to go against people, but to allow to manage yourself.
Perfect, thank you. I think we're going to have to move on to the next activity.
Yeah.
So we've got spot drama. Yes, so we've got spot drama who are going to do a little activity with us. So I'm going to hand over to
In that case, we need to put some music on. I'll get them ready.
Okay.
Okay, cool, yeah.
It's part of the performance.
Do you want me to?
I'm not too sure.
Do you want? Yeah, you go for it. How would you sort this out?
Okay, all right. So we're still waiting for them. I'll just let you know what's happening. We've got a very special treat for you today. We have a world famous artist coming in to do a usually very expensive seminar with us all. And they've agreed to do it for free, so we're very lucky to have them today.
I'm going to go and check where they are actually.
Yeah, cool. Right, fine. This artist has been all over the world, a fact that you'll tell immediately by their geographically indeterminable accent. It's European of some description, which we are legally obliged to ask you not to be offended by. So, hang on, I'll just see what they are. Excuse me. Monsieur Blanc, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, bonjour! Oh, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. And so as you know, we're going to do some artwork, some creations. Is that okay? A masterclass? Oh, fantastic! Wonderful. Okay, first things first, we need some paintbrushes.
We don't have any paintbrushes.
No. Do you have no paintbrushes? Well, how do you expect us to paint? Huh? How are we going to paint? How do we paint?
Invisible paintbrushes.
Oh, that's a wonderful idea. Shall we use our invisible paintbrushes to paint today, everyone? Yes? Yes? Oh, wonderful. And if we're going to use these invisible paintbrushes, we'll need to use our beautiful hands, won't we? But first things first, what are we going to paint? Huh? No? No? Okay, that's fine. The first thing about painting is you want to pick something still to begin with, something simple. Like Halloween, a pumpkin. Do you want to paint a pumpkin? Oh, excellent, right, that's the music and we'll begin. So get your fingers ready, let's see these fingers. Beautiful, very good. Yep.
Is our paint also invisible?
Thank you, sir. Yes, of course, our paint is also invisible, and it's going to be right in between your legs and your chairs. And actually, what colour do we need to do a pumpkin?
Orange.
Orange, excellent. Okay, it's going to be orange. And when I start the music, you're going to draw me the best. Okay. Here. Oh, the music goes up. Let's try it here. That's because it's not.
Is it invisible?
Wow, it's invisible music silence. Right, so, right. Let's get your fingers ready and do a large pumpkin. Okay, brilliant. Now think about the little pumpkin carve. Go to the face. Do that. And then trigger the stem. Beautiful. On the sides, that's looking brilliant. Okay, side him off from the painting. And turn it around so I can see it. Oh, sir. High five in his face. Angry face. Oh, very good. Oh, madame, this painting is very nice too. And what can we do about it?
Why did a cat on my
Oh, I see the cat to show off. Very good. And, did I say take a banana? No, I didn't. Get rid of your painting. Get rid of your painting. Let's do another one. Now, we've done a vegetable. Let's do an animal. Then let's keep
Halloween theme. What sort of Halloween animal could you do? Okay. Get your pet. Or a cat. Cat or a bat, you decide. Get your pet. And take the cat or a bat. Okay, don't forget to stand zero from the painting to a house of another turnaround. Oh, it's good practice. Very good practice. Oh, now tell me about the weather. Is it absolutely fantastic. Why have you put a tutu on your cat?
Cat likes to wear it.
Fair enough. Last picture, get rid of them. Now, this is the hardest part of our masterclass. The last thing I would like you to paint for me today is water. And remember, I love you. But also, let's have a Halloween quiz to it. Do the next page. Have I got the video? Have I got no? Carry on, everyone. Throw me. Okay, now stand the bottom of your painting and show me. Oh my! What is it Italian? Very. Wow, that is the most beautiful painting I have ever seen. Can I have it to put on my wall? Now what's different though? What have you done to my face to make it a bit old? Rainbows! Oh, very nice. Aisha. Turning it to a werewolf. Oh, very expensive. What have you done? I did not say make me naked.
This your blocks, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, he's finished now.
About 3 or 4 minutes of maybe a 15-minute piece that we're working on to build into a proper performance, and maybe in the show as well. Okay.
I think I was stupid enough not to come to these events sooner, so I don't know why you wouldn't come along.